Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Flip podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to be flipping through a story about the green economy scam. And you may be thinking, well, Alex, what do you mean the green economy scam? Well, I'll tell you now, there are a whole bunch of funds out there that take money and try to advocate for green causes. I actually fell for this myself, apparently, because this key example that is brought up in this article from National Review actually talks about aspiration and their debit card system, where they lay away a little bit of extra money in order to save trees. And I, too, was a user who, and I take that back, I just reaffirmed my account the other day. It's now called GreenFi. So the fact that this is actually a scam and that trees weren't being planted and they weren't doing, as a company, what they said their mission was, is frustrating, annoying, and honestly kind of scummy. That's the way to put it. But with that, tell me what you think of the Green New scam. And I don't mean that in the whole Green New Deal. I mean that in all of these different scam companies that get out and appeal to people's better nature and willingness to try to help and be part of a free market solution for some of these issues that our generation, the next generation, may face. Not even guaranteed to face, may face, because we could innovate our way out of it. But if you could do something small to mitigate it, wouldn't you want to? Especially if it's already baked in to what you're doing when it comes to spending money. Well, that was the thought, and yet it turns out not true. So let's actually get into the article, and we'll quote the first paragraph here from National Review. Headline reads, "The green economy is rife with fraud." Multi-millionaire environmentalist Joe Sandberg funded the $2.3 billion financial and sustainability resources company Aspiration Partners and donated tens of millions of dollars to progressive Democratic causes, candidates, and the party itself. He pled guilty to massive green fraud after being indicted by the Department of Justice and now faces up to 20 years in prison, but has not yet been sentenced. So he's outright guilty. And we've known that there's this sort of rife is the word that they use. Let's use a different word. Let's use our own word. It is pervasive. We know that this sort of pervasive scamming or based on people's values exist. I mean, ESG, we've done plenty of episodes on why ESG actually distorts market functions and puts the emphasis in the wrong place and is either used and weaponized by activists in order to change company policies, or is used by hedge funds to funnel money to projects that may not actually survive alone without this sort of support. And of course, those specific ones that won't survive, or ones that are activists trying to alter the board, they are rarer than you would think. Out of the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of companies that are publicly traded, you hear maybe about one or two cases where the activists are trying to be really active and they're successful in changing policy at these boards. And you hear them probably every few months. And then you'll maybe hear one or two of the case that these companies collapse without ESG spending. I think over my tenure doing this podcast, I've heard about one or two. So it's not as though it's the end of the world. Oh my gosh, there's so much wasted money. But this shows the end result of a system that is oriented towards the wrong things, rather than understanding the business processes, rather than understanding the underlying bottom line math. You focus, or at least you're willing to ignore some things because it has an ESG label, and people are willing to take advantage of that, like Mr. Sandberg. So let's actually get to another part of what National Review is claiming he did and describing, and obviously he has been found guilty. So we leave room for this to be 100% true, though I do believe they embellish a little bit in places here or there. Quote, "Resembling a modern-day form of indulgences, Sandberg's scheme and aspiration involved pressuring other companies to pay tens of thousands of dollars that he would supposedly pass along to their entities to plant trees in Africa. The ostensible goal was offsetting carbon dioxide emissions." So basically, he's saying, you got to pay this fee, and in order to give special access on these different platforms, and we're going to then pass along some of this money in order to plant trees in Africa. And even if it wasn't in Africa, it doesn't matter where it was. If it was in Asia, I'm assuming the regulatory system there might be a little bit easier, but they're also getting a lot of timber, so you can't guarantee that will stay. Africa, also the regulatory system is a little bit easier, but I would also question whether or not that is the ideal place. Why not in South America? But why not in North America? Probably because labor cost is so high. It's hard to advocate for a small amount of money to come off of every single paycheck and say that you'll be able to fund trees and then do it in America where the cost per tree is going to be higher. But overall, this sounds like an honorable system, and yet that a lot of that money didn't end up going that way. Quote, Sandberg then used the nominal revenue from this activity to obtain large loans, triggering a $248 million in losses for his victims. Quote, the defendant didn't just bend the truth, he built a business on a lie to boost the company's value and line his own pockets. Eric Sheen of the United States Postal Inspection Service Criminal Investigations Group said of Sandberg's scheme. First off, Uspis, I think that's the joke from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but Uspis was involved. Wow, he really messed up if he got caught by Uspis. But you can see once again how this man is perverted in his nature, and he's not even giving people a fair chance. And that's not to say that it's his job to be a nice goody two-shoes, but this is what happens. This is what happens when you try to take advantage of people's better nature and you don't put any effort into actually the follow-through. One, the climate activists are going to see, or at least find out eventually, and they will turn on you immediately because you are lying, you are not doing what you said you would do. But also, the U.S. government's going to come after you because you are a charlatan and an oil salesman. And I am not trying to be over the top here. I'm not trying to be emotional because I got gypped. I've spent very little money on that account. If you look at the amount of trees I have saved, it's like $5. Because by the time the card got here and then transferring the fees, but I believed in the mission. I'll be honest. I made a few purchases from there. I used one of the bonuses in order to purchase something. I believed in it, and the fact that it is just a lie upon lies upon lies. It's a house. It's a house of cards. It's a house of lies. It frustrates me to no end, and I hate when people get taken advantage of, especially for their core beliefs. I may not agree with those core beliefs. I may not believe that the world will end if we don't focus on it. It has to be the sole focus of most people, or at least in the top three. I think we can innovate our way out of it. I think there are lots of promising features or lots of promising technology, and when pressed with an emergency, very often humanity rises, though there are certain counter examples. But the point overall is that I don't have to agree with the most extreme version of that opinion of climate change to think that it is important to at least do something and try to respond in a free market way. So when people are taking advantage for those principles in any sense, that is absolutely frustrating. So with that said, let's jump into our daily delight. This one comes from Dog Time by Sharma Sweeney, and the headline reads, video owner reveals 3 cool corgi things corgi does with a snooter box. And honestly, it's his nose, obviously. It's absolutely adorable. If you want to see this guy rubbing his nose everywhere, playing around, and have a smile on your face afterwards, it will be linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there you can find the National Review article where you can read the thing in its entirety. Also down there you can find the podcast on Spotify, Podcast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your DailyFlip, where I post the links to these episodes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then also for Tuesday and Thursday when we release 6 and 6, which is 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. So with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.